But the real secret of your whole thing was you had extreme depth in your domain knowledge, and you had your architecture.
Yeah.
So
So
outsourcing is irrelevant into that scenario unless management start thinking.
Well, outsourcing was good to bring in more bodies to write the code.
Well, that's not really outsourcing, that's contracting.
That's true.
That's different.
It was contracted.
Yeah, essentially.
Yep. Yeah, so user development, refactoring. Before we were always afraid to refactor, just because it meant breaking stuff. But now we were using RSpec, and we had cruise control. Originally the Java version of control. Now we're on cruise control RB. That's why I have the RB in parentheses there. I mean, those two things combined just kept us honest. When we refactored, if we broke a test, we had to fix it. And so we were constantly refactoring stuff if we didn't like the way we did initially, or if we thought we saw a pattern and we wanted to abstract it out, those types of things. And just refactoring was so easy in this environment. And Selenium, we also, we had some great tests. We had Jason Huggins is the developer at ThoughtWorks who wrote Selenium, and while he was on our project, then he got hired by Google while he was on our project. So that was a huge loss to our team when he left. But he had wrote some really nice Selenium tests, which unfortunately got lost because the QA people didn't really understand them and decided to redo them. And
so they don't run as part of Cruise?
What's that? No, well, they not as our. We have two sets of crews. We have the continuous integration that we do every time we do a check-in, and then we also run nightly functional tests, Selenium tests. And so those tests take a lot longer to run. We are in the process of building up some basically smoke tests, happy path tests that we want to integrate in with our continuous integration. Just make sure we don't blow up some major pieces that'll take a lot shorter than the 4 or 5 hours it takes to run right now. So we're steadily building up those test cases right now. So where do we go from now, or from here? We're constantly building new features for the site. We've got a backlog of 800 pages. Really gave us a lot to work with, and we still have a lot to go. We want to complete all that. We're looking to. We had from a hardware and software stack perspective, we had no idea what to do with this. We talked to a bunch of people who were running Rails apps, and we came up with a software and hardware architecture that we thought would work. And it works pretty well, but we'd like to move to a virtualized environment to give ourselves a little more flexibility in our production environment, as well as our back office environments, to put together all the environments that we need to do testing and business acceptance type stuff. And also we're looking at scalability. A lot of people say Rails doesn't scale. I disagree. I think it all depends on your architecture and how you put it together. And Rails gives you a lot out of the box. It gives you a lot of bad stuff out of the box too. There's very little caching built in. There's just we had a contest, not sort of contest, more of a dubious contest to see how many queries one page could generate. And we wrote a filter that basically looked at the page that we have our development environment that tracks queries. And if we have more than like 50 queries per page, we actually put up a little DHTML flag, and it flags the developer that you've got too much stuff on there. And I actually won that contest, I think, over 2,000 queries on one page. And then we looked at what queries it was generating, figured out how to cache them, and got it down to like 20, something like that. So maybe 30. It was a calendar page, and it was just ridiculous. It was iterating over every event on the calendar to see how many every type of each event was happening each day, that kind of stuff. So Rails out of the box may not scale, but I think any good software developer has to realize what it's doing for you and how to prevent yourself, from shooting yourself in the foot with that type of architecture. I mean, Metromix gets a lot of hits, a lot of page views, and it's probably one of the biggest Rails apps out there. And we run in a very little hardware.
Are you able, without maybe getting into all the details of your deployment architecture, do you do caching within Rails and then also have like caching servers or content servers like Varnish or anything?
Yeah, so we have we use Memcache. We do in-memory caching. We do file system caching. We use Memcache caching. So, like for instance, all of our images are actually in the database. All our binary data is in the database. You make a page request. It looks to see if that file exists in the file system. If it does exist in the file system, it serves it up. If it doesn't exist in the file system, it goes to look to see if it's in cache. If it's in cache, it serves it from cache, puts it on the file system. If it doesn't exist in the cache, goes into the database, then retrieves that data, writes it out to the cache, writes it out to the file system. So we do it caching in as many layers as possible. And of course, the controller that's serving up that content checks the last modified time of the cache entry and the file system entry and determines if it needs to be expired or not. So we do caching in many layers.
Is there any like session state that the users have or anything?
No.
Just not transactional. It's not like the users are really.
We do have registration, but there's no transactions there. And anything that we do need to track is for the cookie.
How independent has your virtualization strategy been in your architecture? Made some changes on your architecture?
For software, we'll still use the same apps. So we got, I can tell you a little about kind of our stack. We've got NetScalers, hardware load balancers before everything. And those balance off to Apache, which then we either serve up static content, or if it's a dynamic request, sends that off actually to HA proxy we have right after that, which is then HA proxy proxies that off to one of our mongrels. So we were originally using what was it, cluster mod proxy balancer on Apache, but there's some performance issues with that because Apache just starts sending everything off to the mongrels regardless of where the mongrel's done that transaction. And the Rails dispatcher in Mongrel is single-threaded, so all the requests stack up inside Mongrel, and that causes memory leaks. And so if we have a slow request or like a request that took a long time, those things would start bloating our mongrels and blow them up eventually. So we put HA proxy in front of that. So basically we go Apache to HA proxy and then into the mongrels. And we have a MaxCon 1 set on our HA proxies, which prevent more than one connection being made to the mongrels at any given time. So at any given time, our mongrels are only processing one request. They don't have anything stacked up. So there's only one request on the mongrels.
How many mongrels do you have?
96, I think. We want more. I want more. We're kind of upgrading our database servers right now to handle more connections.
Are they running like multiple mongrels on a machine or in a VM or?
We have 3 different machines. We don't have any VMs right now. We have 3 separate app servers. So we're kind of clustered, or not clustered, we're siloed. So the request comes into one web server, stays in that same silo the entire time, which allows us to bring down a silo and upgrade that silo and make sure the upgrade works, and then bring that silo back live and do the next one. So we have a pretty cool deployment technique. That was one of the requirements from upper management when we started this app. When I started the development, was we want to be able to deploy anytime, deploy our code anytime, as opposed to having to wait till 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is, and shut down the servers and disrupt the traffic. So we came up with this architecture both from a software and hardware and deployment architecture to facilitate that.
Do you use Capistrano or?
Yep. Capistrano's awesome. We're trying to, our sysadmins are finally starting to see the light when it comes to Capistrano. I mean, run one command and it executes everywhere. It's awesome.
Maybe you can teach BlackBerry how to do that. They use Erlong, but they're still they don't understand it.